there was no middle ground on certain issues. And it was, we were obviously open and we modeled the start from bear hunt, bear hunting. That's where we started from. People. David, your thoughts? I mean, actually, you had a couple of good points I never thought of too. In terms of number of dogs is an issue. You were, I don't know if you want to share anything with the board. You participated. It was a long night. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, it was a long night.
I think the only break we had was stand up and grab a piece of pizza, and then we had to sit back down because it took a long time to get through.
It's it is very emotionally charged. I think there's I don't want to speak for different parties, but I was left with the impression, I think that some have high expectations on certain ideology. They think that those things were going to go, and it appears it's not. I think that's where, you're starting to get, I just don't know that you're going to get people to move off that. I just don't. But I think the regulations that seem to be, some bulletins that came out, or, like some of the things are modeling after the around it. Makes sense. And I think those are important, and it's a tough thing. It's, you're trying to mitigate, keep an activity, yet mitigate problems that could arise. And it's not an easy feat.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
You were actually very active, Jane. Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot too. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think the meeting overall went really well. I think everybody was fairly respectful on everybody's individual opinions. And, I second what Dave said about, emotions are running high, people have high expectations, and it just, it's going to take a lot to come to even ground on this issue. I think the survey that was sent out to all of us in the beginning, or I guess before we had the meeting, probably helped to kind of find some sort of common ground, or to find an average of everybody's opinions. I mean, overall, I think it was pretty productive, and everybody was pretty respectful. So
Sean was there all night too, and actually, there's a lot of times we had to keep stopping questions going your way, just so we could keep moving with the meeting. There seemed to be a lot of questions from your perspective of the law enforcement people dealing with dogs and regulations. And how do you enforce this? And we had a couple wardens also, right, who sat on the group.
Yep. Josh Hungerford and Wes Butler were both part of that.
You were picked because they had a lot of experience dealing with.
Yes, their specific districts have a fairly high number of coyote hound hunters. Yep. Yeah, and I agree with what everybody else has said so far. I mean, I think all in all, it was a productive meeting, but talk about the two different stakeholder groups, I don't think they could be further apart on some issues.
My only aha moment was there really is no understanding from some organizations, groups, but what dog hunting is all about. Whether it means dog hunting for birds, for raccoon, bobcat, coyote, dog bear, it just is not there. And I actually thought how people that had experience hunting with dogs, trying to be very helpful to explain to them how they know where their dog is, how do they control their dog, how they train their dog. But it's a fair assessment. I really, an eye opener to me that many of these people own dogs, but have not hunted or seen people actually, that use dogs to hunt. That seemed to be very often.
I agree.
Give me that, Sean, that seemed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest from, having reflected on it a little bit, I think the biggest issues that you all are going to have to deal with when it gets to you is, control and what that means, because you've got, the hound hunters that are they come in and tell you guys, it's like, well, I've got a GPS collar and I've got a training collar. I have control of my dogs. And you're going to have folks on the other side of the equation that are going to come in and basically tell you, if you cannot see your dog, how do you have control over it? And that's going to be for all of you to figure out. And the other one's going to be, the other big one was, what constitutes a pack of dogs? Bear houndsmen have always had 6. There was some amount of consensus on 4, I think, because that's what we landed on from the survey that was sent out. But there were some good points in both directions, I will say, on why there should be more and why there should be fewer.
One of the
Last
main
aha
points-
moment was your comment, sorry, to interrupt you.
Oh, that's
With
okay. I
my
was just-
dogs, number of dogs, I never thought that.
Yeah, just putting a, what I know, and again, I don't have them, but, bears, if I know a slower animal than a coyote very fast, and, the ability to, their whole goal is to get an animal to bay, and then they go and they harvest that animal. And the ability to shorten that pursuit time, limits your problems spreading out. And it's a reason why, again, I don't do it, but I know guys that do, is the reason why they don't run with 4 guys. They run with 10, 12 guys, way more than dogs. They're putting people at different points. They all have access to the same dog that's been trained. And they're doing that to mitigate it. They don't want an all day run, they're trying to do, I don't want to chase, if I'm chasing rabbits, I don't want to chase my people. And that's the reason why they do it. And that's the whole point of, more dogs is to mitigate that faster.
I was just gonna say, it seemed like everything kept leading back to ethics and education. And whether you're dealing with ethical hunters or having all parties involved being educated on what is involved in hunting hounds.
Training, like you brought up too, is, training of the hounds, where's there's a standard for training, like some houndsmen may be very, in my experience with any type of training of dogs, it's been more on the military and law enforcement side. You got very good handlers that they dedicate, it's a craft, they're very dedicated to it. You have houndsmen in the same way, but maybe not every houndsman is the same way, and so maybe is there a standard that you can set or something to that effect, where, so you ensure that people that are participating in this activity are doing it at a very high standard, and that's another thing to talk to.
Mike, do you have a question?
On the facilitator. So do you foresee using a facilitator again? Were they useful?
Built, but I think from when we're dealing with these issues where we've got groups that are so far apart, where a lot of stuff happens after they leave, email, sorts of things on Facebook. Have someone there who's not part of the department who can control the meeting and can help. We'll never get rid of it completely because we're the one initiating it, but it reduces the idea that we're not being transparent, that we're being biased, because we have someone there. And she admitted from the very beginning, she didn't see the rule until she came. And she admitted she didn't know a lot about it either. So it really helped, I think, get to capture the feedback people had, but also to kind of make people realize, hey, this isn't, they really do want to hear about us. This is the department telling them what we think they should say about our great rule that we just spent a month working on. And, as we continue to deal with these, really difficult issues, and they're not going to go away, I do think there's a lot of value to it. And it certainly made for a less stress week, less stress night for some of us than,
My answer is, I go back to what Mark was saying about surveying and polling and all the different techniques you do. Depends on the situation you have and the outcomes. So sometimes you want the facilitation to happen with people with content knowledge to help it do. I think we came to a good place with the bear dog regulations that we have in place with us, because basically you and I, Sean, were there, like facilitated that we both had a role, because there was a lot of content knowledge you had to know, coming to a common ground. I think the same way with the 4 different meetings we had on best management practice for traffic. Kim, I thought did an awesome job being fair, transparent, with the facilitation process. And also, but you had to have content information there because we were trying to work through complex issues for many, many meetings. I'll defer, Marty, if you disagree on that, or Mike Olson, you were observing that process through the best management practices. But
Look good.
in that case, I think it needed to be one of us. So, and even with the approach you do to solve an issue or a question. So you really gotta look at it and think back to his presentation, you gotta think through it. What are you trying to do for an outcome? What your process is and who are the constituents you're dealing with? Try to get to a common ground.
Yeah, with the facilitator, we were really clear with her that our objective was to get feedback. Draft rule. Simplifying it, so that's all we wanted, we were not there to really find common ground, we really just needed direct feedback. So we can anticipate.
So I have a question because I've been on the board for about 3 years now and almost exclusively what I've worked on is, we've opened up a rule and we've adjusted a rule, made changes to an existing rule. I think that it's time that we create a rule from the ground up, most parts, since I've been on the board, I think. Or if there was, it was early on and I wasn't quite in tune, but so my concern is making sure that we as a board have the ability to gain that same level of understanding and then get a good comprehension of what that draft rule is actually saying. And so I'm as much interested in understanding what that process is and how we go about doing that to make sure as a board, before we have any kind of vote on it, we're all comfortable with what it says and what it's actually, regulating and how it's regulating the sport.
That would be part of the presentation.
And
And
who's presenting, just out of curiosity? Who's
We
gonna
don't
present
know
this?
just yet, like the team approach. So
Okay.
obviously I'll be heavily into that. Commissioner will have a role, and staff will, but you're absolutely right, though. I don't think the last 3 years, maybe Cash either, we've done any significant rule amendments. We don't recall many. So if you're right in that observation, the ideal scenario is, I think we share information with you. Hopefully people are able to read it. You're going to get the report that you already just got. You sent it to them, right? Have the trapping, a report on best managed practice for trapping. So that's, I'm hoping people will read that, will have questions. We can have some time I can build it, some time for some discussion. Next board meeting in February, we're going to have a busy agenda acting on 2 other processes, not rules, permits and stuff. But again, that's the only thing we're scheduling for March is ending the fur bear rule that deals with the coyote, working group on the dogs, and dealing with best management practices. Nothing else is on the agenda. And I think your point is really good. No board member should ever take a vote if they don't thoroughly understand it. And we'll be going through line by line. It could be a long evening to get through there, but I've seen it happen. And my recommendation would be, but that is if the commissioner to the board, is if we go through here, we spend 4 hours and you still do not understand what's in front of you in that regulation, then don't take a vote. We've nothing that says you can't meet in another week or 2. And to do that, we did the deer management rule. We held a all-day working meeting of the board, so that the board definitely understood all the deer management rule changes, where they even looked at regulatory language. I think we did it at the Berry Fish and Game Club. And it's free, local, and we spent 6 to 8 hours going through everything. There was an awful lot there to process before we did that rule, the formal legal. So we can do that.
David, you have a question?
Seems to be the theme of the evening, survey. Did I have a brain cramp and forget about it, or did I not, who got a survey?
This was
That-
only for the stakeholders of the group.
Okay, I feel better, thank you.
Glad you checked.
Secondly, if you want to talk about, what does it mean to have a dog under control? I'd like to suggest someone from, a canine, unit, or someone, from, a special needs dog, saying hi. As opposed to citizen yelling at citizen about what's it mean to have a dog under control. I'd like to hear from some people who really know what that means. Just as a suggestion, to try and wade towards the shore on that issue.
Had a lot of feedback since, well, I know a trainer who says this, or I know a trainer who says that. And it's not really helpful for discussion. That's an idea.
Well, going back to the point the chair made, we're gonna need to understand, I'm gonna need to understand. Control is central
The other thing,
to this issue.
when you get into control, you're also talking about species of dog, you know, if I'm trying to control Labrador, what's its function, what's it doing versus controlling a hound, what's its function? Just not, you may not be comparing it.
Yeah.
So if I'm bringing someone.
I mean, those hounds are big animals, as opposed to, you know, maybe a terrier that you can have much more easily control, but it's, just some of the questions I know I'm gonna have, to deal with this.
Any other questions? Board members?
I just have one on, there's another part of, we were talking about, I've heard mentioned is the forest coyote management. Where we've talked about hounding, but there's also the other aspect of seasons. Is that something else going forward?
Yeah. There is a petition set from. Department has to come back with any recommendations.
I can't hear you, Mark.
There is a petition that's been tabled by the board, that the department is still looking at, that deals with a closed hunting season on coyote.
The other thing I wanted to just ask about, and maybe you're aware, maybe it'll come into play, but you know, like studies of coyotes, Maine did I read it a few days ago, but Maine did a pretty in-depth study on coyotes. They did trapping and breeding collaring, and it's very interesting on the effects on deer when it came to high winter kill areas, and what they found versus what we, majority of our state may not apply to, but the Northeast Kingdom is a little different, and the impacts that Maine was finding. And then also dispersal rates. I've heard a lot of information come out from different sides about dispersal rates, and how the family units in Maine study found that 84% of coyote pups had dispersed by 6 months. And it was very, very interesting, and I was going to talk about it at the end, but as far as dispersals and where coyotes are going, I'm doing work this week at the airport, Burlington International Airport. And there are coyote tracks all over the airport crossing the runway. And I know it's a mating season right now, but you're talking downtown Burlington and our only international airports that coyotes running through it. So something to think about as far as the dispersal goes. And you see it everywhere. It's the Cape, it's got problems with coyotes and dispersal. Attack something.
Has that main report been published?
It's online.
Can
There's-
someone provide that to me as a board member or all board members? I'd love to look at it.
If I try to pull it and then I try to send it to me, but yeah, it's actually published.
Okay, any other comments or questions on this particular item? So just to make sure we're clear, so what we should expect from the department on this is we have a copy of the report of the working group, the coyote hunting management. No, we don't. So what should we expect?
Waiting for the notes from the facilitator.
Okay.
Come back any day. And we've got to have internal meetings and discussions. So we got some work to do internally in that.
And hopefully the goal is to get that to us before our next meeting? Or should we be expecting?
Open
Or the
the
March
board to get heavily engaged in it by the March meeting.
Gotcha, okay.
We're well along on the traffic.
Right,
But
yeah.
what we gotta do is put, we have the words to actual language, but what I've seen internally, what was shared with the working group, Dave, you were there, and so you, Jamie, is we're well along on language for the hunting coyotes with dogs. Just there's some particular issues that I don't know if will ever been resolved, but we're gonna do our best.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the commissioner's update.
Good evening. I'll be fairly brief since it's getting late. First thing I'd like to do is recognize and introduce Abigail Connolly, who been brought on as the principal assistant, who has the unenviable job of keeping me organized and on task. So she also supplied food for tonight. Not only was it not pizza, she heard me, that may have been the first thing I said to her at our first meeting is no damn pizza anymore. We're also gonna have to get an AED in the room. But she also cooked it. And it was really good, so thank you.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. I also wanted to, because you also probably see emails from her, but she also has access to all my email. And so she helped, we go through it together, so if you want to say something nasty about me, she's gonna see. I also just wanted
She'll
to.
make sure you see it.
Yeah, that's right. She'll highlight it. I wanted to just take an opportunity to recognize. You all heard from Eric and Margaret and Sean and Nick tonight. And I don't know about you, but every time I see them, give information, I'm impressed. At the level, depth of knowledge, their ability to dumb it down for me anyway. I thought, Sean was a great example, and what they represent is kind of work that goes on at the department on a daily basis. It is science-based, and it's based in what is best for wildlife in the state. And you saw a glimpse of it today, but I get to see it every single day in every meeting that I attend. The department does a lot more than just hunting and fishing. We have botanists, and we have all sorts of biologists and scientists who work here. So the recommendations that come to you are based on information from people like that. Just, I wanted to say briefly on the working groups, we've kind of talked about that a lot. There's more coming, but two things you should know. It was a deliberate attempt or a deliberate decision on my part, in conjunction with leadership, to involve a broad group of people on those working groups. I felt it was important that everybody had the opportunity. One of the things that I felt was important too, is everybody remembers what the art of compromise is. If you come in with ultimatums, you're probably gonna leave empty-handed or really unhappy. I think we struck a really good balance because I'm getting heat from both sides of the issue. So I think that's telling. I also want to commend the work of the people at the department. Chris, tremendous amount of work. Mark, Kim, the wardens who were present, all of the you who were present saw a great deal of effort and thoughtfulness, and Catherine as well. You're hiding, that's why I didn't bring you up. I'm always proud of the staff, but even more so right now, because these are very delicate issues and they address them very well. And I think the fact that we had two different, somewhat different processes to get to recommendations that will be under my name to you. The fact that they're a little bit different shows some nimbleness on the bit of the department, on the role of the department, and the willingness to try to learn and move the ball forward in the best way possible. With that, I'll move on. Talking about the legislature, we've already been in a couple times. Met with House, which is no longer Natural Resources.
Natural resources and energy, or
It's
environment and energy.
But Senate is still Natural Resources. Gave an overview of the department, as well as some of the things that we've been talking about tonight. I also will just give you a heads up that the department has some initiatives that we're bringing to the legislature. And I can just summarize them briefly, and I'll give you more detail at the next meeting. Some are just housekeeping, and as Representative Dean knows, we need to update some of our stuff. Catherine did a huge amount of work, not only digging it up, but helping with the language, writing the language. I didn't do anything, writing the language. And then the other ones I would put in a box, say they have more to do with enforcement, law enforcement, regulatory stuff. And so, for instance, you might see an increase in penalties for big game violations. But I don't want to get into the specifics right now because we're still fine tuning and working with sponsors. And so more to come on that. The budget address is on Friday, so I'll be vague at best right now. Except to say that I don't think there are any big surprises with the Fish and Wildlife Hunter. The one disappointing thing that's happened since we last met is RAWA did not pass in the Congress. It died with the last legislature, and we hope that it'll get picked up again. In some respects, it gives us a little more time to do the planning that we desperately need to do. There's a group in the department working on how we're gonna deal with this huge influx of funding if it ever comes. And I'll be continuing to work with Eric and Mark on developing our strategic plan on how to move forward.
Is that an acronym?
It is, it's covering America's wildlife. And it stands to bring us around what, $14, $15 million a year? Is that right?
Potentially up to that.
Yeah. And it would be every year. Of course, it would require a certain match, but that's the hard part. We already get, PR funds and DJ funds. We use our match for that. So trying to find an additional match for that amount of money would be a huge effort. So what that would require, it's not a bad thing, is working with partners to utilize their efforts as part of our match. So when we get closer, if that is going to happen, there'll be more information for you all, just so you have. And I guess the last thing is this weekend is the Yankee Sportsman show at the exposition in Essex. Thank you. Did it used to be up at Collins Pearly?
We had it first 9 years in St. Albans.
Okay, that's where I have
We've
it in
been
my
in
head.
Essex every year since.
So I'm going to be there on Saturday and Sunday with a trip to Montreal in between. Go see the Canadians lose. Because that's your bet. But I'll be there from 11 to 12, speaking and answering questions on Saturday, and then from 12 to 1 on Sunday. Everybody's coming by. Please do. I know Pally and Nicole have done a great job organizing the department's role. So with that, thank you for your time. I'll answer any questions folks might have.
I just have a quick one. Do you have any update on the incident that happened with the trap and the dog? Anything you can share with us?
So I can and I can't. First of all, it's very sad. And what I can tell you without getting into any details because it's still under investigation. There are indications that I don't think this is a surprise. The activity was illegal, the way it was done. And without getting into specifics, I don't want to say much more. But I will say this. Thank you for bringing that up. I made notes, or took notes during the public comment section. And I will note that when you get the recommendations on trapping, that the majority of the recommendations that Ms. McKenzie passed are already considered. So that's a good thing. So I think that indicates that the group really did do their work and did a good job trying to strike that balancing point in a very difficult situation. But again, when there is more information that we can share, we will. No pun, I will tell you this, that the major will tell you that I am constantly badgering them for information about it. I can tell by the smile on his face. I want this investigation wrapped up. And that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Anyone else?
Okay, want to go around the table? Start with Brian or David, whichever one wants to go first.
I have not